Hey guys, it's Leanna and I'm here today to talk about Sandman. So I think I've mentioned at some point, multiple points, that Neil Gaiman is my favorite author. That being said, I don't talk about Neil Gaiman that much on my channel because Neil Gaiman doesn't have a lot of, I've read most of his books already, so I'm usually talking about what I'm currently reading. So you may, I guess, be forgiven for not knowing that he's my favorite author. Anyway, that being said, when people hear that my favorite author is Neil Gaiman, they fairly rightfully assume that I have read Sandman, which until recently was not true. I don't really read graphic novels ever. Like until a couple years ago, the only graphic novel I had ever read was Persepolis, and it was for school. Like it was required reading in high school. Thereafter, my friend made me read Bitch Planet, the first volume, which was fine. Like I feel like I appreciate what it's doing, but it's not really my cup of, like I don't like graphic novels very much. I did read the first Sons of Ares graphic novel, which is the Red Rising prequel series. I did really like that. But then I attribute that more to, I already love Red Rising. So it's just kind of, like I don't know that I would have connected with it if I wasn't already familiar with the world. It was just seeing a world that I knew in a new medium. So I was like, I don't know that that means I like graphic novels. It just means I like Red Rising. Yeah, I had acquired the first and third volumes in Sandman at some point because they were on sale or whatever. So like I had them and I was like, at some point it's Neil Gaiman. So at some point I'll give it a go. But it's never been a priority because I was just like, it's graphic novels. So like, I'm sure they're great because it's Gaiman, but they're great if you like graphic novels. But enter the dramatization, and I pre-ordered that, but I was advised, rightfully, by the same friends who made me read Bitch Planet, that the way that the dramatization is done, the best experience is to read along while you're listening to it, and I would recommend that. And not just, okay, maybe if you love graphic novels, like you don't need to have the dramatization, but I don't know that I would recommend listening to the dramatization without looking at it. You would understand what's going on, but it would just be missing so much. So yeah, I pre-ordered the dramatization and I listened. So the dramatization that is currently available on Audible, as of the filming of this video, I believe they're going to do more, is combined the first 3 volumes of Sandman. So it's comprised of Preludes and Nocturnes, The Doll's House, and Dream Country. So you can, which is what I did, listen to it, and then while you're listening to it, flip along. And not everything, it's not exactly 100% word for word exactly the same. It's easy to follow along where things are going and what things are happening. There's added text because it's dramatization to tell you things that the graphic novel is showing you. So a lot of the stories within will start and not start with the first words in that story because they're setting the scene that you can already see on the page. So you kind of have to pay attention a little bit. And then you also have to pay attention because this doesn't happen at all in Preludes and Nocturnes, but in both Doll's House and Dream Country, one story in each of them is out of order. So there's basically in both volumes 2 and 3, again, Doll's House and Dream Country, there is kind of one narrative that carries through all of the stories in it, except for one. And so that story that doesn't really go with that one plot arc that's occurring, it's told in a different order. So I think in Doll's House, they take the story that's kind of not part of this arc and put it at the beginning. Whereas if you read it as a physical graphic novel, it's like the 5th one in, as opposed to like the 1st or 2nd one. And then in Dream Country, something similar happens, except instead of telling it first, it tells it last. So be aware of that, because that messed me up. I was like, am I missing a page? Like, what's happening? Because like I was used to the fact that the first words wouldn't be part of this, but I was like, you are not describing anything I'm seeing right here. What are you talking about right now? So be forewarned, I wasn't. I figured it out. I was just like, let me flip ahead. I was like, maybe they're telling it in a different order. Let me see if something looks like what he's talking about right now. And sure enough. So if you're looking for it, then you won't be just like scrambling around and be like, what's happening? So be aware. All right, so all of that to say, all of that like logistics out of the way. That's how I experienced it. That's how I read it. I read every page of every book while listening. So like I noted where things were different. So I don't want people to think that I just listened to it so like I haven't actually experienced Sandman, because I was looking at every page and reading what was on the page as I was listening and noting where it was different and where it was something was added or something wasn't included, because there is some text in here that's not included. Do I recommend? Yes, 100% I recommend, especially if you are like me, somebody who doesn't really go for graphic novels. The dramatization really does help sort of put you there in the spirit of this story. There's sound effects. The cast is fantastic, although I personally am not a big fan of Kat Denning. I think that her name, Kat Dennings, the girl from stuff that I don't like. She's the voice of Death, and she's not terrible, and she's also not in it that much in the first 3 volumes. I believe she becomes a more prominent character in later volumes. That's not who I would have picked. In my perfect world, we would have had like Billie Eilish as the voice. She'd be the perfect voice of Death in my opinion. But again, she's not in it that much, and she's not horrible. She's just like not what I would pick. Aside from that, every other person that they cast in this dramatization is perfect. James McAvoy is the voice of Morpheus, and that's a very significant character. That is basically the eponymous Sandman, and he's an excellent choice for that. If you are on a related note, there is a BBC radio dramatization of Neverwhere by Neil Gaiman, and James McAvoy is the main character, Richard Mayhew, in that dramatization as well. And James McAvoy vibes well with Neil Gaiman, in my opinion, so I'm glad they chose him. So he's an excellent Morpheus, which is important because Morpheus is a really important character he is the thread. He is the Sandman. So excellent choice there. A lot of the minor characters are played by pretty heavy-hitting voice actors. You have Andy Serkis, and that's all I can think of right now because I've gone brain dead. A pretty substantial voice cast. I mean, you can look it up. I don't know why I'm entirely blanking on who else is in this. Why am I only thinking Andy Serkis isn't even, he's in it like very briefly. Well, anyway, there's a pretty great voice cast, which you should look up because I can't think of any of it right now. Yeah. Okay, so the dramatization is fantastic. The voice cast is perfect. Again, other than Kat Dennings, the sound effects and the music, it really, really pulls you in and sucks you in and puts you in this world of the Sandman. Excellent, excellent. Oh, and Neil Gaiman, fucking obviously. Neil Gaiman narrates a lot of it. He does the sort of non-character parts, the parts that are more narration or explaining or setting the scene. He does that. And Neil Gaiman reads a lot of his own work. If you don't know that, a lot of audiobooks of Neil Gaiman's books are read by Neil Gaiman. He's very good at reading his own work. Not every author is. So yeah, but the graphic novels themselves, I mean, I really got sucked into this, and I'm sad that there isn't yet available a dramatization of the next volumes. That said, because now I'm kind of in this world now, and I know what we're doing, and I have those voices in my head now, I kind of want to go ahead and pick up the next volumes, because I do really like this, and I can't say for sure if I had picked up Preludes and Nocturnes without the dramatization and just read it, if I would have gotten into it. But now that I am into it, it's kind of like with Red Rising, where I'm already into it, so now I feel like I can go on and read the other graphic novels, the other volumes, without the dramatization, because I'm in it now. Like, I know where we are, I know what's going on, like, I have the vibe, like, internalized, so I can go on and read it. That said, if I was to do that, which I'm very, very strongly considering, once they would release the dramatization of the next 3 volumes or whoever, I don't know if they're going to do always 3 in one go, I don't know. But if whatever the next chunk is they do, I would listen to it again because it's excellent. It's high quality, the dramatization. I feel like I've said dramatization a lot in this video. I play a drinking game. The art in these graphic novels is... I can't speak to how it compares to other graphic novels. I'm not an expert on graphic novels. I can't be like, unlike so many others, I have no fucking idea. Maybe this is entirely typical for graphic novels. Though from what I understand from people who are connoisseurs and are fans, Sandman is fairly widely recognized and revered for standing out from the pack in terms of its artistic style. So I can't comment on that from any position of authority, but to me, coming into it as fresh as I did, I was impressed by it, extremely impressed by it, and swept away by it, and unnerved by it, and I think it's quite something. The art in here, it kind of reminds me of, whenever possible, I try to, if there is one available, I try to get illustrated editions of Neil Gaiman books that are illustrated by Chris Riddell. Chris Riddell's illustrations, he tends to illustrate the ones that are released in the UK. And because his illustrations often have this unnerving quality that I think really blends well with the stories that Neil Gaiman tells. So he illustrates a lot of the children's stories that Neil Gaiman writes, but he's also illustrated adult works such as Neverwhere. There's an illustrated version of Neverwhere that's illustrated by Chris Riddell. So I bring that up to say that I think I'm familiar, or I have experienced like a combination of Neil Gaiman's storytelling with a distinctive artistic style that I think vibes with it. And this is nothing really like Chris Riddell's art style. It's very different, but I think it's the same in terms of really vibing with and capturing the feel of Neil Gaiman. When you read a Neil Gaiman story, it's usually very filled with imagery and very bizarre imagery. And I feel like both Chris Riddell and the artists who have worked on the Sandman graphic novels, their artistic style really vibes with Neil Gaiman's storytelling and that unnerving, unsettling quality to both the story and the imagery. It's well, you have to like it. If you don't like things that are unnerving, unsettling, and very dark, then you would not like Sandman. But again, I love Neil Gaiman's storytelling already, so that going into it is a thing that I'm familiar with. I did, because my preference is novels, as much as I really, really do respect the craft here, and I think the art is fantastic, I wish, because I'm me, that there was a novelization that I could read of Sandman instead of a graphic novel. Not instead of, but in addition to. Much like with Red Rising, like, I like that there's graphic novels, but I like that there's books. So, like, I wish there were books, like Sandman novels, and then also graphic novels. Maybe not even of the same plot arc, just that there was maybe a core novel of Sandman, like maybe just like his origins, to kind of what you get in Preludes and Nocturnes, but like an expansion of that or something, like the Sandman's origin, or one specific arc within his eternal life that's a novel, and then the rest be graphic novels. I don't know exactly what I require, but I would love an actual novel, because I love Neil Gaiman's writing. That said, I am so glad that the dramatization has now kind of not forced me, but encouraged me to finally explore Sandman, which is just such an icon and is so well known. And again, I felt like a fake fan of Neil Gaiman's for so long, because everyone's like, Neil Gaiman's your favorite, then you have read Sandman, fact. I'm like, put a pin in that. So I have read the first 3 volumes of Sandman now, so I'm less of a fake fan. I have not read them all, obviously, but I want to. I have not at all explained what Sandman is in this video, which I guess I just figured if you're here, you know what it is, and you just want to know what I think of it. Belatedly, Sandman is, I don't even fucking know how to describe it. I don't know if I'm going to try, but the Sandman is the god of dreams, Morpheus, and these graphic novels, I guess, are part of the DC universe, which I think I knew, but I also was reminded of the fact now in these first 3 volumes. I was like, oh, DC, because I think it mentions the Justice League at some point, not like heavily, but it's in there. And the world is so Gaiman, the way that these deities are personified, the way that they feel both human and entirely alien, the way that humans are so messy and dark, and how that darkness manifests itself in these strange, fantastical ways that, again, feel utterly alien and fantastical, and yet so recognizably human. And it's everything that I love about Gaiman, just in a new medium, so that part of it was enjoyable. I appreciated the fact of that I get to experience Gaiman in a new way, because I've read Gaiman's books, I've seen adaptations of Gaiman's books in film and television, and now I get a graphic novel of it, yet another way to experience Neil Gaiman. So I guess I'm glad about that. There's no wrong way to experience Gaiman. He works in all mediums. I think if you like Gaiman, then you'd love Sandman. And if you, like me, are not into graphic novels, still pick it up, especially now that there's dramatization, because that really does hold your hand a little bit. Especially, like, I literally read no graphic novels, to the point where when I am often very confused about what order in which I'm supposed to read stuff, because I'm starting to pick up on some conventions of how the page guides you and how you're supposed to read it. But even reading now the dramatization, I was like, wait, we're going down first. I see. Like, I'm such a novice. So again, if you, like me, are just like, what is any of this when it comes to graphic novels, the dramatization does help you along, because, like, it carries you through. But the art, you gotta look at it. Like, I do not listen to the dramatization without reading it while you go. Don't do it, because the art is so worth it, and it's a part of it as much as the words and the story is. So yes, basically what I'm saying is I recommend it. And if you've already read the graphic novels, check out the dramatization, because it's fantastic. If you've shied away from the graphic novels, check out the dramatization and read them together. If you don't like Neil Gaiman, then don't read this because it's very Gaiman. I understand that there's going to be a Netflix adaptation of Sandman, which I think is going to be live action, which I'm hopeful will be good. We'll see. I feel like an adaptation that was a screen adaptation, I think this would benefit from being done by like Miyazaki, because that art style would be really cool, but you know, no one asked me. I'm not in charge. In any event, let me know in the comments down below how you feel about Neil Gaiman, how you feel about Sandman, how you feel about dramatizations, how you feel about media and mediums, and how they do and do not lend themselves to different kinds of storytelling. Yeah, let me know all the things. And I post videos on Saturdays and sometimes at other times. No idea when this video is going up. It might be Saturday, it might be a different day. But I do post videos on Saturdays, that remains true. So let me know in the comments down below, whatever you want to let me know. Like and subscribe, and I'll see you when I see you.